So the second thing that we're going to do is Lynda Kahn is going to step out from behind the Zoom screen and share with us her reflections on the art of holding space. And so, as many of you know, Lynda is a master, a master space holder, and holding space in the kind of work that we are supporting people to do. It's an essential practice, and it actually guides everything that we think about change. And that is especially because if we believe that each of us is a maker of innovation and creativity, then we depend on safe spaces for discovery. And that's the art of holding space. And I should say, by the way, Alyssa, you're right in the middle of my screen. So I'm going to pull out you around this. When I loved hearing about in a breakout group, one of the most important takeaways that you've brought back into your daily work with people is just holding space for deeper conversation and deeper reflection. And we want to underscore the power and the value of that. So Lynda will share some reflections about that. And that
So I've got the privilege to have been invited today to talk about holding space, which is something around which I have a genuine passion and interest. I'm a deeply curious person, and I really love hearing what people are thinking about and creating the space for that to happen. And we're thinking about this today and this particular practice because in a very short while, my boyfriend Jack is going to introduce a conversational practice around listening into a story for gifts. And it is often the case that uh, we need to take real care to be able to hold space for just being able to be present, to afford another person the opportunity really to hear what they have to say. And uh, one definition I've come across, a quote I came across by Adam Brady, is that holding space is a conscious act of being present, open, allowing, and protective of what another needs in each moment. And there are lots of roles that we play that afford us an opportunity to be in this particular place of holding space. And as I've said, one of the things that's really been important about it to me is that I've come to really appreciate this as a calling. I'm really deeply curious. I really love making the space for people to talk about what matters to them and hear what they have to say, as well as really listening in between the lines. It creates a lot of joy for me, for people to discover what they have to say. Um, it's also big fun when there's graphic recording and people can even see what they have to say. And I know I end up feeling that this has been done well if the person or the group feels um, really seen and heard, accepted, validated, affirmed, appreciated. That's that's when I feel like I'm at my best. And interestingly, you can tell. Heather Platt has written quite a bit and created a space that we'll share where she's having a lot of conversation and course offerings in the idea of holding space. And she talks about holding space as meaning that we're willing to walk alongside another person in whatever journey they're on without judging them, making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them, or trying to impact the outcome. When we hold space for other people, we open up our hearts and let go of our judgment and control. Since the invitation came from this hosting team to share some reflections and explore a little bit about holding space, I feel like there's been messages coming to me from the universe. And one of them was from Eckhart Tolle, who was thinking a lot about being present now and held this question: can I be the space for that and surrender into presence? And a self reflection for me is that I have an extremely busy head, and it is often really the deepest stretch to just let go and stop the thinking, so that I can hear and be present, and feel into what someone else says. And I can't do that if I'm busy hearing me. So I have found that it's really important to quiet the committee. That's the stuff going on in my head. I can't possibly hear if I can't quiet those voices. And there's a centering practice that I was introduced to years ago by Wendy Palmer, who's uh, written about and practices conscious embodiment. And she thinks about balance and energy and just really being deeply present in yourself, in space, and being centered and really thinking about your intention, and the qualities you want to hold. And we've come to really practice taking 3 deep breaths. And the first is to really take a long, slow inhale and exhale and become centered in your body. And the second is to take a breath and become aware of those you're with and extend your energy to include them. And the third breath is to just become open to what's most important to come next. Bill O'Brien has said, the success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. And in thinking about, so what are the interior conditions of the intervener, um, we've thought about that setting the intention, that both intention and attention are key. And that for me, setting curiosity, really thinking about curiosity and gratitude and approaching uh, listening with real grace and spaciousness, and having attention, which is for me discovering conscious, focused presence, and just finding that it's just obviously really important not to interrupt or hijack a conversation with, ah, yes, I remember when that happened to me, and take it over. This is about creating space for someone else and letting go of the voices of judgment, of cynicism and fear, and really cultivating as much as possible an open heart, an open mind, and open will. And I know these ideas will be familiar to you from listening to the levels of listening that we were introduced to earlier as one of the practices that um, John O'Brien wrote about so beautifully. The idea of just really being able to listen with acceptance and gratitude, and as I said, hold curiosity and appreciation, uh, to tune into compassion, and to be in a space that you appreciate that we're bearing witness. And also for me, I've discovered that being able to think about questions as invitations for people to explore what matters to them and what's possible, um, really makes a difference in being able to hold the space. And this is language from the levels of listening that you'll see again, but really thinking about the impact of not having your head so busy that you're only thinking about what you're going to say next, or I already know what the person I'm listening to is going to say, and I'm not tuned in. And so being able to have an open mind, which really does express curiosity and quiets the voice of judgment, and an open heart, which will activate our compassion, and an open will, which really draws on courage, and really can calm the voice of fear and lead to new ideas and really generative listening. Uh, Lily Tomlin and the Edith Ann characters said, "We're really listening with the kind of intensity that most people save for talking." And I want to leave the last words to Christine Mayer, who, when I also think about uh, becoming grounded, uh, thinking about and reading Christine's poem really makes a difference to me, because I think it reflects really listening with the eyes of your heart. She says, if you're going to work with me, you have to listen to me. And you can't just listen with your ears, because it will go to your head too fast. You have to listen slow with your whole body. If you listen slow with your whole self, some of what I say will enter your heart. I'm grateful for the opportunity to stretch into that exploration a bit, and I want to pass it to you, Jack, to really introduce the conversation practice that we're inviting people into as they hold the question around gifts.
I'm just so touched by the virtual TSI offering in light of the today's focus on holding space. Fully aware that for many of us, it really has been the Toronto Summer Institute where we learned to hold space and we discovered the power of holding space. And that even though it's a different way of knowing and learning, that if we can give ourselves to that and trust that something comes, then something comes and we are changed and we are restored by that.